which division are you a captain of?
Ladder 5, B platoon.
Do you know Jerome Faulkner Sr.?
Yes.
How do you know him?
That's my father.
And where does he live?
He lived at 8067 Highway 96 North, Oxford.
All right. And was he married?
Yes.
Who was he married to?
My stepmother, Dora Faulkner.
And are you familiar with their residence?
Yes, very.
Had you visited there many times?
Yes.
Do you remember January 1st, 2015?
Very much so.
Were you working that day?
Yes, I just got to work that morning, yes.
What time did you get to work?
It was between 7 and 7:15.
Is that the normal time that you go on shift?
I normally go on shift at 8, but traffic reasons, I usually get there early. But, of course, on the first, there's no traffic, but just normal routine.
So, in other words, your day began normally that day?
Yes, sir.
And you arrived around 7:15 or so?
Yes, sir.
Did you come to know about the fire at your father's house?
Yes.
How did you come to know about that?
I had got a Facebook message, something on Facebook Messenger on my phone that said I need to call Granville County 911. I sort of blew it off initially thinking, well, they thought it was my daddy, same name. Mistakes have happened like that before. So I went to get my gear on. I figured once I got my gear on, I'd just answer back on what was, were you trying to get in touch with my dad or not?
Did you make that? Did you return that call?
No, I've got another message, I guess less than a minute later, I'm not exactly sure of the time, that said that I need to call Granville County 911 immediately. This was about my dad. So quite naturally, it was from Cindy Royster. I called the number. I guess it's their direct number. And she advised me that the house was on fire. Had I heard anything from my dad or stepmother? And I said no, that I was cool. That I would try to. She said, do you have your cell phone numbers? I said, definitely. So I immediately started trying to call. And of course I asked her, I said, how, being a firefighter, I was, asking how big the fire was and so forth.
What did you do next?
Well, I continued to call. I called my dad's number. I called Dora's number. It kept going to voicemail. Daddy's phone would go directly to voicemail every time I called it. Dora's phone number would ring 2 or 3 times and then go to voicemail.
Was that strange to you?
Yes, it was. Especially being we didn't know exactly what was going on. Of course, I'm nervous at the time because my dad and stepmother's house is burning and no one can get in contact with them, including myself. Cindy Royster had advised that she had called on the house phone and couldn't get anyone.
Did you know Cindy Royster?
I knew of her. I didn't really know her. Daddy had spoke of her very often. Daddy and Dora both, actually.
What did you do next?
Well, I was getting ready. I went and talked. I was assigned, at that time I was assigned to Engine 23 on C Platoon, and my battalion chief was in that station. I went to him directly and said, look, my mom, dad, my stepmother and dad's house is on fire. I need to go see what's going on. I said, we can't get up with them. He said, yes, definitely go find out what's going on and just come back when you get a chance. Before I walked out the door, he was walking with me out through the bay as I was headed to my vehicle, and I get a phone call from a male subject that, on Dora's phone. That was odd. I said, but maybe Daddy's phone was dead, or the battery was dead, or so forth. So
when you say you got a call from a male subject, was this a return call?
Yes, this was a return call.
Had you called Dora's phone any number of times?
I had called it numerous times, both phones. I've left voice messages on both phones that stating that if you got this, please call me back. I stated that the house was on fire. I was stating what I thought was obvious things, but like I said, not being able to get up with anyone at the time, just trying to make sure.
So when the phone started ringing, were you initially relieved?
Yes. I was like, oh, this is Dora's phone. They're calling me back. She got my message,
Okay.
When I answered the phone, it was a male subject. He advised the power was out and he went to a hotel. I'm like, well, Daddy, why didn't you go to the cabin? Just initial thing, hear a male voice.
What is the cabin?
Cabin was off of Sam Blackwell Road. They had a farm up there, 60, 70 acres. It was a little 1,000 square foot cabin that they had built sort of as a getaway from time to time.
Did it have a separate power?
Yes. This was, I'd say, 2 mile and a half, 2 miles away from their normal house. There's no telephones out there. It's just a TV where you can just go, basically, a getaway. I said, Daddy, why didn't you go to the cabin? And he said, he acted like he didn't know what I was talking about. I'm like,
was that strange?
Yes. That's where we met for all our family functions. Well, I can say all of them, but probably 80, 90% of them. And he sort of blew it off. I said, well, Daddy, your house is on fire. He said, okay. I'm like, well, this ain't my daddy. In my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, this is not my daddy. So, because, being a firefighter, many discussions we've had about fires, I knew he would be like, well, what are you talking? He probably said a few other words in there, but he said, what are you talking about? My house is on fire. And, but he said, okay. I'm like, Daddy, you don't sound like yourself. I said, you all right? He said, well, I got a frog in my throat.
Why was that? Was that strange to you?
Yes. I've never heard him use that term before. And then at that point, I said, well, let me speak the door. And the phone disconnected immediately.
Was that the last time you ever got a call from that number?
Yes, but I called it back instantly just to see if we got. Cell phone coverage in that area can be spotty from time to time. So I called it back instantly and went straight to voicemail again.
Did you ever get any other calls from that number?
No.
Were you ever able to reach anybody on either of those two numbers?
No. After that point, her phone would go straight to voicemail. So it would never ring. It would go straight as if it. I'm speculating, but as if it had been cut off or the battery gone dead. While
you're making these calls, are you driving to your father's house?
Yes.
What time do you arrive at your father's house?
I would say it was close to 8 o'clock, give or take. I'm not, I didn't look at my watch or nothing, or I'm pulling up, seeing a house that's still smoking at the time. Worried about my family.
As a son, what do you see?
Well, I see everything. I remember when they built the house and how proud they were of that house, and I had done work up there, because they were really. That was their house. And then I'm sitting here thinking, well, I know Doris will be upset because they had many animals around the house, in the house, and I was thinking, and she was very big on family, lots of family portraits, Bibles, books, keepsakes, and so forth.
When you said animals, what type of animals?
Well, they had 2 dogs that was in the house. I want to say it was 5 cats inside also. They were Doris' babies. Daddy always acted like he didn't care about them, but, he was very...
Did Dora have children of her own?
No, she had no biological children. They were basically her children other than my brother and myself.
As a firefighter, what do you see as you pull up?
House still smoking, completely destroyed. Just obvious it's a total loss of a house.
Had the roof fallen in certain points?
Yes, the roof was completely gone. Outer shell of some walls, garage area burnt completely up. What I knew where the kitchen area was, that area completely burnt out.
As you drove up into the yard, what happened next?
Well, as I drove up, on the way there, I received a call from Alan Glover because, like I said, he had testified that he knew me and he had my number. So he called me and said, look, you do not know your daddy's house? I said, yeah, I remember out. Cindy Royster had called me. I said, he claims he stayed in a hotel. I said, but, that's odd for Daddy. Daddy don't do stuff like that. And he said, well, a good sign about that is his truck is gone out of the garage. I said, well, maybe what I heard was, true. But like I said, it's still odd because Daddy didn't want one to go any place. He wanted to stay around in case that fire whistle went off or the pager. Because still, even though he was retired, he had that scanner sitting over there by his chair, and he would, it would go off and he could say, "Oh, that's such and such house. I might need to ride up there and see if there's something I can help do." Or,
But he still respond to calls?
yes.
Talk about your dad. When's the last time you saw your dad?
It was on December 27th of 2014. With my work schedule the way it is, I've worked a lot of holidays. I had worked Christmas Day that year, and we had lined it up where we were just going to come on. I can't remember what was going on the 26th, but we just figured the 27th was easier for everybody to get together for Christmas holiday.
And so was the 27th, was that your family Christmas vacation?
Yes, and we had it at the cabin.
Can you talk about your dad when you saw him, and particularly about his, how he was physically?
I mean, good health for a 70-year-old man. I mean, 72, I think, 73, somewhere.
How tall was he?
He was about 5'10", 5'11". I was a little bit taller than him.
Okay.
But he always told me, no matter how big I was, he could still get me straight.
Right. How tall was Dora?
I would say she's approximately 5'6", 5'7". I mean, she was a bigger woman.
Mm-hmm. You said your dad, there was nothing wrong with his health.
Normal health issues, your diabetes. He has some cataract issues. Can't really say. He had told me one day before. He said it's bad when you get old and you have to spend time running to doctors. For his diabetes, cataracts, and just normal health conditions for you can consider for a 70-year-old.
Now you said he still responded to calls.
Yes.
Did he have problems with his mobility at all?
No, this was a man that would go out and cut his grass, weed eat his entire yard. 2 weeks before, a tree at the end of the driveway was dying, and he had a friend cut it down. He went out with a chainsaw, cut it up, had a log splitter, split the wood.
So he was handling the log splitter? He was handling the log splitter?
Oh, yes. I mean, he would had a shed out back that he had filled up. The year prior to that, there's over on the farm where the cabin was located, they had cut some timber, and he had me come up there, and he rented a bulldozer. I drug limbs out, and him and friends would go up there and cut. He'd give a lot of the firewood away, but he cut a lot for himself to put into the shed because they had a wood stove. I mean, every night, every day or so, he would fill up the side porch there with wood so they could keep the wood stove going.
Did Dora have any physical limitations or mobility issues?
No. I mean, like I said, she was 11, I think it was 10, 11 years younger than Daddy. She worked every day. Like I said, Downs were a baby. She had about 30 or 40 cats outside that every day she would go feed. At least once a week she'd go to Walmart and fill a cart up with canned cat food and bag food and all to make sure they were kept fed. And I mean, like I said, she'd do that by herself. There wasn't no one there to help her. Of course, Daddy would help her unload it when she got home, but
he didn't have to.
No, she could handle herself.
He was just doing it because of being her husband.
Yeah, husbandly duties and make sure he didn't have to. Normal husband-wife things.
As you drove up the driveway there and you're starting, did you talk to anybody?
I spoke to a couple of the firefighters there. I remember speaking to Alan. I remember speaking to Mark Harrison. I told Alan over the phone, about the phone call I had received, but it didn't sound like Daddy. And then we got cut off. But they were asking me had I heard anything quite naturally when I got there. Also, he said, "We'll go." He brought Mark. I had never met Mark before that. I didn't realize he was the fire chief there at Cornwall. So I spoke to him, told him basically the same things. Some things that threw red flags up, but the truck was gone. I mean, I thought it was odd that, they would go to a hotel because they had the wood heater and Dora would not leave them animals there. I mean, if they went somewhere because it was cold, she would have found some way to take them animals. Now, I'm going to tell you, like I said, they were babies. I mean,
what kind of truck did your dad have?
It was a Chevrolet extended cab red. It was say 2002, 2003, somewhere in that range. I can't remember exactly.
What happened next?
Well, I was there the rest of the day we would try different things. I talked to Cindy Royster again. She'd call me and say, have you heard anything? They're just constantly trying to, still trying them. Going straight to voicemail. Quite naturally, lots of concern by this point because I'm like, where are they at? And we still couldn't. I was standing around there. Some folks, they would come up and ask, had I heard anything? Later on that afternoon, Mark came up to me. He was in his uniform as he is today, and asked me, said, have you heard anything? And then that's when I saw him start walking around the house.
As you're there and this fire has been put out, are you seeing people come and go?
Yes.
And firemen?
Yes, most of them are firemen. The fire marshal back there, he had come up and he spoke to me, and him and Daddy were very good friends. And, like I said, a lot of concern, a lot of neighbors, other family members that were coming up and, wanting to know what was going on and have we heard anything and so forth.
But you didn't have any information to provide for them?
No.
Did you? At the point that you saw Mark Harrison, when he came back up, was he wearing his deputy uniform?
Yes.
And you said he started to walk around the house? He
started walking around the house, and like I said, first time he come and asked me, had I heard anything at that point? I said no. He started walking around the house, and as he walked around the house, I saw him, stop at a few things, look at a few things, and then he goes and opens his trunk up and starts getting scene tape out.
And when you say scene tape, what do you mean?
The yellow, we have fire service tape, but I'm sure the sheriff's department has crime scene. It's called crime scene tape, or it's a yellow tape with cordon off where people cannot come in.
And did he start to put that up around the perimeter of the house?
Because when he started doing that, is when I really started getting nervous. I called my brother. I called other people. Hey, I'm not sure what's going on here. Family members that had been calling me all day.
Who is your brother?
Ricky Faulkner.
Is he here in court today?
Yes, sitting right over there with his wife, Jeannie.
Has he been here with you the whole time?
Yes. He showed up that night shortly after the crime scene tape started going up, and we're, of course, thinking the worst at that point.
Is your brother older or younger than you?
Younger.
What happened after that?
At that point, my battalion chief, Steve Page, at the time, had been out there all day, and he come out there to check on me. He said, let's ride somewhere and get something to eat. And we did. When we come back, then it's a deeper section of scene tape up, and all these exterior lights and all, and Sheriff Wilkins come over to me and basically, introduced himself and spoke to me, and then he come back later on and was advised me what had been found in West Virginia.
When you say what had been found in West Virginia, what did he tell you?
Well, he told me that 2 people matching the description of Daddy's truck. They did find a wallet with Daddy's ID in it, and they felt pretty sure. He said, I wouldn't be telling you otherwise, but I feel pretty sure this is your dad and stepmother.
Is that the first time you were told about your dad and your stepmother?
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner, I'm approaching you with 2 photographs marked as State's Exhibit 202 and 203. I want to ask you to look at them for a moment. Do you recognize them?
Yes.
Do those pictures fairly and accurately portray the images contained therein as you remember them?
Yes, one was taken in the early 2000s. one here was taken, I would say around 2010, 2009, 2010, 2000. I believe they were both from a church directory.
Will they aid you in illustrating your testimony to the jury?
Yes.
I move that they be admitted for illustrative purposes, Your Honor. 202 and 203.
Yes, sir. Mr. Black.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Faulkner, if you could turn your attention to the screen there, can you tell the jury what that is?
It's a picture of my dad and stepmother. Like I said, that was I believe it was a church photo, church directory photo. I'm going to say 2009, 2010, 2011, somewhere in that range. I'm not exactly sure the date.
You mentioned it was for a church directory. Where did they attend?
Mountain Creek Baptist Church.
Were they active in that church?
Yes, very.
And what kind of activities or what did they do with Mountain Creek?
Daddy was deacon of the church. He was head usher. I'm not sure of other duties that he may have held. Him or her, either one, held in the church other than that. He spoke with them two very often.
Were they married at Mountain Creek?
Yes, I believe they were.
Okay. How long had they been married?
They were married in 1983, January 13th of 83. So that would have, been 30, right at 30 years, 31? I remember, I tried to place it on the fact that we had a 25-year dinner a while back, but I can't even remember the dates on that.
Where was the 25-year
At
dinner?
Mountain Creek Baptist Church.
Going to the next picture, this will be State's Exhibit 203. Do you recognize that picture, Mr. Faulkner?
Yes, that's my dad and stepmother. I won't say that was early 2000s. Can't remember exactly the dates. That was definitely an earlier picture than the previous one.
Did your father have firearms in the house?
Have what?
Firearms, guns.
Yes.
He did. Did he hunt?
From time, he hadn't hunted in a while, but him and my brother had done some hunting in the past.
Now, when he would hunt, would he wear camouflage clothing?
That was many years ago that he had been hunting. Dora loved her, like I said, loved animals, and she didn't even want no one deer hunting on their property and so forth. Because she was always like, "It's God's creature," and she didn't want it hurt. My brother at one point had to do a lot of begging to be able to hunt. But no, to answer your question, no, sir, I'd never seen any camouflage clothing.
Was that something peculiar about him that he did that differently than everybody else? What would he wear when he would go hunting?
He always just wore a pair of flannel shirt and Dickies pants that I can never remember seeing him in. I'm not saying he didn't wear camouflage when he went hunting, but my brother's the hunter in the group, and I never really got into that.
So when you say he would always wear a flannel shirt and Dickies pants, is that just kind of what you saw him in?
Yes, sir.
What kind of shoes would he wear?
A pair of slip-on loafers.
And so he would wear that hunting just as soon as anything else?
Probably. Yes, sir. They were doing everything else, whether it be on the tractor, bush hogging the field up there at the cabin, or whatever.
Had you had a chance being up there and visiting with your father to see any of the guns that
Yes,
you
sir.
had? And were you somewhat familiar with them?
Somewhat. I know about what he had and didn't have, but it wasn't something that he'd bring out, or we got to look at all the time, especially with the grandkids up there and so forth.
And when you say grandkids, did he have grandchildren?
He had 4. I have a daughter and a son, and my brother has 2 sons.
How old are they?
17, 16, and John's 14, I think, and my son's 13.
And so you said that he didn't keep the guns out all the time.
No, if he was at the cabin, I have seen a pistol in the drawer or something in case someone was to. I mean, that was way back up a dirt road, up another path that you had to go through a section of woods to get to it. I mean, it was, he'd keep a little pistol just in case someone came up there.
Did he have a large gun collection?
No.
And so really he just had a few guns.
A few guns for, like I said, it might be for had a handgun for protection that I'm aware of, and 2 rifles.
Okay.
Or a rifle and a shotgun or something like that.
All right, now approach. Mr. Faulkner, I'm approaching with a box marked 204, and I was just going to get you to read the description of item contained therein.
Ivor Johnson, caliber .22, serial number 33529.
All right. And, Your Honor, I'd like to put on the record, I'm going to open this just for the purpose of Mr. Faulkner making identification of the contents therein.
The box is marked in.
Box is marked as State's Exhibit 204. I will mark the interior as 204A, the object therein. Faulkner, I'm going to show you what is in box 204 and been marked 204A. Do you recognize that?
Not in the condition that it's in.
And what do you mean by that?
It's been burnt.
Okay.
I recognize it as a gun.
You recognize the gun? Do you recognize it as a gun that was in your father's house?
To be honest with you about that one, I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, they had a safe in the house that could have been one that stayed in the safe. We want nothing like he, bring out guns on a regular basis.
Does this gun appear to be operational?
No, that gun is not operational.
If I could approach, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Faulkner, I'm approaching with a box marked as State's Exhibit 205. Would you just read the description of the item contained therein?
Harrington Richardson, .22 caliber, serial number C6427.
Your Honor, I'm going to open up the box for identification to allow for identification purposes. Faulkner, I've marked This item is 205A. Do you recognize what it is?
It's a pistol.
Okay. What is its condition, if you could describe it?
It's appears to be a burnt, all handles burnt off of it, rusty.
Do you recognize it?
I don't recognize that one either. It could have been one that they had that, like I said, I'm not aware of, or one of Doors' family members' guns or so forth.
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner, I'm approaching with item State's Exhibit number 117 that's already been admitted into evidence, one Smith & Wesson .38 revolver. Do you recognize that?
I do recognize that one.
And how do you recognize it?
That's one I have seen Diddy have at the cabin before and around his home.
And you said he kept the gun for protection?
Yes.
And would he have did he keep this gun?
Yes, I mean, that, like I said, at the cabin in the drawer beside the bed, I have seen that gun there before.
All right. And is it in the same or substantially similar condition as the last time you saw it?
Seems a little more weathered, but I mean, for the most part.
But you're certain that this is the gun?
I feel pretty certain that is the gun.
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner, I'm showing you what's been previously marked as State Exhibit 114 and 114A. You take a minute and look at it. What is it?
A small caliber pistol.
Do you recognize it?
No, I do not.
Have you ever seen this around your parents' house?
No, sir.
Did you ever know them to own a pistol like this one?
No, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner, I'm approaching you with what's been marked as State's Exhibit 206. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is it?
It's one of Daddy's hunting guns.
Well, is it the gun or is it the case?
The case, I recognize.
Do you recognize the case?
Yes, sir. I recognize the gun.
Is the chamber empty?
Yes, sir.
And you recognize the gun?
Yes, sir.
How do you recognize it?
I've seen Daddy pull it out for hunting purposes.
Has he had this gun a long time?
Yes.
Are you certain it's his?
Yes.
Your Honor, that is 206 and 206A. What type of gun is it? If you know?
12. It appears to be a 12-inch right now.
Is it a brown one?
I'm not familiar with the brand. Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Faulkner, I'm approaching with an item marked 207. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is this?
Flat gun case that I know Daddy had kept in his closet.
You say he kept it in his closet? Do you recognize this to be his?
Yes.
Is it actually empty?
Yes, sir.
And do you recognize this?
Yes, sir. I've seen Daddy use it before.
What is it?
It's a rifle, not sure the caliber.
Was it your daddy's rifle?
Yes.
Has he had it for a long time, as far as you can tell?
Yes, sir.
Status on mark the rifle is State's Exhibit 207A. Mr. Faulkner, I'm approaching with an item that has been marked as State's Exhibit 208. Do you recognize this?
No, I did not.
Can you tell us what it is?
A sword of some type.
Can you read what's written right there?
It's like a CSA Indian.
Did you ever know your father have this?
I've never known him to have a sword around the house.
Have you ever seen anything
No, sir.
like this laying around his house at all?
No, sir.
Do you believe this to be your father?
I do not.
And what is this, if you know?
Looks to be a spike of some kind. Not sure. Piece of metal with a pointed end on it.
Mr. Faulkner, the first two guns that I showed you, they were virtually destroyed. Is that right?
Correct.
They were burned,
Yes, sir.
and certainly it'd be difficult to recognize them.
Yes, sir.
You never saw anything like that around your parents' house before.
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
All right, not in that condition.
Exactly.
You said that Dora had a lot of animals around the house.
Yes, sir.
What type of animals?
Cats and dogs.
Okay. You said that some were inside and some were outside.
Yes, sir.
Were the cats inside and outside?
Yes.
What about the dogs?
There were 2 dogs inside. They had an outside dog, but they got them too when the one outside one had died.
Okay. Do you remember their names?
Callie and Toby.
Would you recognize them if you saw them?
Yes, sir. I believe I would.
Okay. Did they have any kind of kennel in the house for the dogs?
Yes, sir. They would put them up in a kennel each night because the dogs were so active before they went to bed.
Were the dogs fairly young?
Yes, sir. I'd say a year and a half at the most. I could be off on that a little bit.
Do you know where your parents got the dogs?
I want to say it was at a shelter around Granville County. I'm not 100% sure about that one. I do remember it was from a shelter, but where Daddy went to get 1 dog, come back with 2 dogs. It's funny. It was a funny story about the whole situation. We always had a good laugh about.
How he went to go get 1 and came back with 2.
Yes, sir.
With the dogs, would he put them up if somebody came over?
No. I mean, well, if somebody was scared of them, he would. My daughter used to be petrified of dogs, and, quite naturally, she was over there. He'd put them up, but most of the time at night, they'd have to run at the house until bedtime, and then when Daddy and Dora went to bed, they put them in the kennel.
Were they large dogs?
Sort of a small to more of a mid-size, I would consider it.
So a little bit bigger than a lap dog.
Yeah, well, they wanted to be lap dogs. Daddy and Dora both talked about they would think they were little bitty dogs the way they jump in the laps.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Faulkner, I'm approaching what's been previously marked in minutes and states Exhibit 47 and 48 photographs. Would you take a moment and look at them?